Shalom. This is for those listening at home, for those who are used to having a midrash at the end of every message. This is actually being recorded for the people at synagogue today because I'm not going to be there. I am on the road having a spiritual retreat, something that was much needed, but I'm recording these messages so they can be played at synagogue. Today will be in the 38th chapter of Ezekiel. Says the word of Yehovah, so Mashiach, pre-incarnate, came to me. O mortal, turn your face toward Gog of the land of Magog. Okay, it says the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal. Now, I know there's a lot of debate among Bible scholars about what is Gog and what is Magog. I'm not going to try to give you a definitive answer. I'm not going to try to give you something that you can take to the bank, so to speak, and say this is what it means because Rabbi said so. I'm going to give you what I've come to in my own studies, and because it's such a hotly debated topic, and it's not a sanctification topic, it's not something that has to do with how eternity is going to pass for you. I'm going to encourage you to do your own research. I'm just going to give you little insights into what I've discovered in mine over the years. Now, to begin with, when I was a young believer, I remember being told that Gog and Magog were two different nations, and that Gog would meet Magog, and they would fight it out, and it would be like World War III. And I remember a lot of Bible teachers on television and what have you were looking for that to happen in our lifetime. I'm not going to say that something like that isn't going to happen, but I think there was some confusion going on there because they were trying to tie it in, I think, to Armageddon and say that this was the two great powers of the world coming against each other and yada, yada, yada. But the first clue for me that that's not what's going on here is that it says that he's turning his face toward. In other words, he's going to speak to and prophesy over Gog of the land of Magog. Okay, so it's either a person in the land or a city in the land. But then it says the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Now, here's the thing. If Gog is its own country coming against Magog, then none of that makes any sense. If any of this is true, then the theory that Gog and Magog were two different countries doesn't make sense. The fact that Gog is referred to as him, and the prince kind of leans toward, in my opinion, the idea that this is actually a person and a prince, and that's what I believe. But I also see there could be some credence to this. Could be the city, which is like the princely city where these lands are ruled from in an ancient empire. I've heard that argument. I'm not going to say that that's wrong, but that's not how I see it. And so I have to show you what I see and then encourage you to go look at it yourself. So it says, prophesy against him and say, thus said Yehovah Elohim, lo, I am coming to deal with you. Not something you want to hear from the creator of the universe. O Gog, chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, I will turn you around and put hooks in your jaws. Again, this could be all metaphorical about it being the princely city, but I really believe he is a prince in Magog. And lead you out with all your army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed in splendor, a vast assembly, all of them with bucklers and shields, wielding swords. Okay, so he's leading them out so that they will go to war. Another reason why I think it's an actual person and not a city. Among them shall be Persia, Nubia, and Put, every one with shield and helmet. Gomer and all its cohorts, Beth Togarmah in the remotest parts of the north, and all its cohorts, the many peoples with you. Now, I read this. A lot of people read this and say, "Well, you see, this nation must have ruled over other nations that were way up in the Arctic Circle," and I don't think that's what it's saying either, because he names specific countries, and some of them we don't know exactly where they were. That's been lost to us over time, but we know where some of them were. Like we know where Persia was and is. We know that Persia is Iran, Iraq, that area. And then at one point it was an empire. So um, at this point, actually, it was an empire. So it could have meant all the countries of the empire, or it could have meant the central Persian kingdom, Nubia and Put. Now we know exactly where Put was. It was up around the kind of the Black Sea area, um, up along kind of the area of kind of what is like Turkey today. And he says that all of these are going to come um, wielding swords and shields with Gog of Magog. Okay, so he's going to lead a coalition, basically, of nations, or he may be emperor, but he only calls him prince. But somehow he has authority over all these nations. It says Gomer and all its cohorts, Beth Togarmah in the remotest parts of the north, and all its cohorts, the many peoples with you. And so when it's saying the remotest parts of the north, it's not the north as we know it today. It's the north that they knew, in the remotest parts of the north of their kingdom, or their empire, that was well known in their time. Again, probably extending up into Turkey. Be ready, prepare yourselves, you and all the battalions mustered about you, and hold yourself in reserve for them. After a long time you shall be summoned. In the distant future you shall march against the land restored from the sword, gathered from the midst of many peoples. So in the distant future, Gog and Magog and everyone that muster with them is going to come against, that's right, Eretz Israel and Beit Israel. So this is going to be a mighty destructive force coming against our people, coming from the north. I'm just going to let you think about that. Who to the north, oh, I don't know, up around Turkey, would want to destroy us through a coalition of nations? Iran, Iraq. So I'll leave the whole what they're doing with the United Nations for you to speculate about. But yeah, there's something going to go, and it says in the farthest in future from then, but that might be right now today for us because we are the farthest in future from him. against the mountains of Israel, which have long lain desolate, liberated from the nations, and now all dwelling secure. So when the mountains of Israel dwell secure, having been liberated from foreign nations, this is going to be one of the next things that happens. The mountains of Israel have been relatively secure, although they've been under attack. We've been defending them. We took them back from a multitude of nations in 1948. So, this again, all of this could happen today. You shall advance, coming like a storm. You shall be like a cloud covering the earth. You and all your cohorts, and the many peoples with you. Okay, so this coalition coming against Israel sounds like today's news. Thus said Yehovah Elohim, on that day a thought will occur to you, and you will conceive a wicked design. You will say, I will invade the land of open towns. I will fall upon a tranquil people living secure, all of them living in unwalled towns, sound familiar, and lacking bars and gates, in order to take spoil and seize plunder. Okay? To turn your hand against repopulated wastes, and against a people gathered from among nations, acquiring livestock and possessions, living at the center of the earth. Sheba and Edom, and the merchants of all the magnates of Tarshish will say to you, have you come to take spoil? Is it to seize plunder that you assembled your hordes, to carry off silver and gold, to make off with livestock and goods, to gather an immense booty? Therefore prophesy, O mortal, and say to Gog, thus said Yehovah Elohim, surely on that day when my people Israel are living secure, and you take note, and you will come from your home in the farthest north, you and many peoples with you, all of them mounted on horses, a vast horde of a mighty army, and you will advance upon my people Israel like a cloud covering the earth. This shall happen on that distant day. I will bring you to my land, that the nations may know me, when before their eyes I manifest my holiness through you, O God. Okay, so this goes back to something we've talked about in earlier weeks. There are times when Elohim, in order to correct us, allows the Gentiles to attack us, to beat us down. But every time afterward, he goes after those Gentile nations and punishes them. And that's what we're seeing him promise here, that he will be glorified, because he could not be glorified through Israel because of our sin. He glorified himself through Gog of Magog, by punishing us, well, he will. And then when we have purified ourselves to him, he will turn around and release his anger on Gog of Magog. Thus said Yehovah Elohim, why you are the one I spoke of in ancient days through my servants, the prophets of Israel, who prophesied for years in those days that I would bring you against them. So he says, this is not some new plan. This is not something I just cooked up last night because I was upset with my kids. He says, this has always been my plan. You haven't understood it. My children don't understand it yet, but you will be the mechanism of their salvation, and then I'll punish you for it. And that's a hard one for some people to wrap their brains around, but that's how he works. On that day when Gog sets foot on Eretz Yisrael, declares Yehovah Elohim, my raging anger shall flare up, for I have decreed in my indignation and in my blazing wrath. On that day a terrible earthquake shall befall the land of Israel. The fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the beasts of the field, all creeping things that move on the ground, and every human being on earth shall quake before me. Mountains shall be overthrown, cliffs shall topple, and every wall shall crumble to the ground. I will then summon the sword against him throughout my mountains, declares Yehovah Elohim. And every man's sword shall be turned against his brother. I will punish him with pestilence and bloodshed, and I will pour torrential rains, hailstones, and sulphurous fire upon him and his hordes and the many peoples with him. Thus will I manifest my greatness and my holiness, and make myself known in the sight of many nations, and they shall know that I am Yehovah. So that's quite a turn of events right there. We're going to read more next week, but this is one of those horrible chapter breaks that I think is completely unnatural. Last week or the week before, I think it was, we had like 2 or 3 prophecies that took place at different times or given at different times, all crammed into one chapter. That seems awkward to me. It seems just as awkward to me that we're in the middle of talking about one prophecy and they cut it off to a chapter. It's one of the reasons why I can encourage you to study topically, not to study chapter by chapter, even though that's what we do in synagogue each week. We go back to back, week to week, and I want to encourage you as you do your study at home to do the same thing, because we just saw a total flip-flop twice. We saw Israel being punished for sin. We saw the people who were used as that tool to punish us, punished for their actions. We saw Israel rise up and come out of the mountains ready to fight, and then we saw brother turn against brother. There's just so much going on here, and it's kind of a cliffhanger where they put the break. I encourage you to be with us next week as we try to dig a little deeper into it as we go into chapter 39 and we start figuring out a little bit more about who God is. Thanks. Have a great week.